il y a certainement une identité belge. Il y a évidemment de grandes différences entre les Belges de langue flamande et les Belges de langue française, mais il y a réellement, à mon avis, il y a réellement une communauté. Et il existe, aujourd'hui, puisque les régions, puisqu'il existe 3 régions, ayant chacune une assez grande autonomie, il y a évidemment des différences, il y a des différences assez grandes au niveau de la société, au niveau des façons de penser, de vivre. Il y a d'assez grandes différences entre les Belges de langue flamande et les Belges de langue française, mais il y a de toute façon, il y a toujours une communauté, à mon avis, une réelle communauté. Il existe toujours, à mon avis, une société belge, une façon de penser, une façon de vivre qui sont communes aux Belges de langue flamande et aux Belges de langue française.
As a Belgian, your identity is multi-layered. You are, yes, Belgian. Yes, if you ask me, yeah, you're Belgian. But are you Flemish? Yes, you're Flemish. Are you European? European, yes, you are European. And for the Flemish-speaking part of the country, there is also a very strong local identity as well, which is often determined not as much by a province, but in generally about half or one third of a province, because that's about the size of the major dialects in Flanders. So you have, like from Limburg, where I'm from, you have people from the east and from the south of the province, because the dialects are different, and if you then part of the same dialect group, you have basically the same identity. So you have this local identity, you have the Flemish identity, you have the Belgian identity, and we claim that we are Europeans as well, although I'm not that sure about the last point.
Because I associate both with being Flemish and being Belgian, I don't know exactly where I have to group myself in terms of other Belgian people, but I like being Belgian, and for instance, when I was abroad, I met several Dutch people and I met several Walloon people, and I bonded more with the Walloon people than with the Dutch people. So I have the feeling that the mentality we have is more, in Belgium, there is still one mentality that creates a certain identity there. So I still feel Belgian in that way, but I also feel Flemish, but I also feel from Asse, and like all the identities kind of interact, and I also feel European, and depending on who you talk to. But I still think that there is a certain thing, there is something that means being Belgian.
Mais l'identité belge est une identité très, très particulière, parce que c'est un pays qui est né un peu artificiellement en 1830, et donc on a toujours considéré les Belges comme faisant partie à la fois de la France, de la Hollande. Enfin, la Belgique a été occupée par plusieurs puissances européennes, notamment par les Autrichiens, les Espagnols, les Français, les Hollandais. Donc nous sommes un peu un mélange de ces nationalités. Et donc être belge, c'est vraiment, c'est aussi un état d'esprit pour moi. Le Belge est essentiellement un bon vivant, c'est quelqu'un de convivial, c'est quelqu'un qui n'est pas, qui ne rentre pas facilement en conflit comme nos amis français ou il y a une culture en Belgique qui est reconnue de plus en plus. Nous sommes véritablement nous avons certains maîtres en peinture comme Magritte, comme Delvaux. Notre cinéma est de plus en plus apprécié, et je ne parle pas de nos grands écrivains comme Georges Simenon, qui est quand même un écrivain mondialement connu. Et voilà.
So do you identify as Belgian?
No.
No.
But that's personal. I don't have that feeling to be Belgian.
Mm-hmm. You
So,
identify as Flemish?
yeah, I feel more Flemish than Belgian
Mm-hmm.
because I have a lot of sympathy for the Wallonian people, but we are not one. We are not the same culture,
Mm-hmm.
and that's no problem that we are not the same culture, but we are not one
Mm-hmm.
for me.
I think that I pride myself, or I like something about the Belgian identity in contrast to the French one, because it's not a major country. Belgium is a mixed up country with two cultures, but also a history that was never unified thing that emerged from its own core. There is no core really, and like Ile-de-France around Paris with the center of France, and then they slowly brought together other parts of what we now call France under the same flag, but it's the dynamic is totally different. And the dynamic here is to be always ironic about oneself, So the culture for me, it's more maybe surrealistic. Maybe the reason why we have some famous surrealists like Magritte and others, but also it's the irony the Belgians have on themselves, and they can take a second look on what they say, which is not the case in France, where they would be totally immersed in the truth of what they're saying, their position. So at that level, I identify myself more with Belgium, even though it's difficult to pinpoint what it is exactly except what I said.
Yeah.
Because the Americans, they love winners, and here they love the underdog. Maybe because this is such a small country, who knows? But there's a distinct and not unimportant difference.
I think what I've noticed so far, coming in contact with a lot of foreign people coming here, I think the reaction that a lot of Belgians have is like, oh, why would you come here? And I think that also comes from us being conquered by everyone, kind of the modest, non-patriotic mentality.
Mm-hmm.
Because we feel so insignificant and non-distinct from any other, like, we could be part of any nation and not and not part of any other nation at the same time. That I have the feeling that Belgian people feel very modest, and they're not easy. Then you don't find many people who are really going to defend their country if other people from abroad say something bad about us.
Mm-hmm.
They're more like, oh well, maybe that's true. Like, not all the time, of course, depending on what other people are saying. And I don't think that necessarily correlates with the fact that people want Belgium to split up or something.
Mm-hmm.
Because I feel modest about our country. I'm not that patriotic, but at the same time, I do feel like no, Belgium shouldn't split up. Like, we're just fine like this. This mentality, exactly the non-patriotic mentality, that's what glues us together.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I think is part of the whole mentality of being a Belgian. That's part of the exact identity. Us being conquered by everyone, kind of feeling in the middle of things, kind of feeling like we're the underdog for everyone. that's like the underdog mentality. That's part of the identity, I think. And that doesn't mean that the country as a whole shouldn't exist.
Maybe in Belgium it's more difficult to tell, but when you go out of Belgium, when you think about it, you see there is a Belgian image. So when you go out of Belgium, you think, yes, okay, there is a Belgian nationality, because people see you like this, or think you are loving beer or French fries or waffles, or that you like to live and something, and that's true.
It's true.
But when you are in Belgium, you don't feel it like being the Belgian identity. You think it's normal to be like that. But when you go outside of Belgium, you know other people think that of you, and so there you think, oh, okay, maybe. But in Belgium, I'm not sure if there is really one identity and we are all holding hands to say, okay, we are all together to form one country, one identity.